He night shift at Valorum Prime shipyard was always quiet. Ji-Won moved through the empty corridors with her toolkit, checking maintenance panels and running diagnostic tests. She had been doing this job for 2 years now, ever since humanity joined the Galactic Council as junior members. The pay was decent, and nobody bothered her much. Most aliens barely noticed the human workers anyway. Ji-Won was 19 years old, short, even by human standards, with dark hair tied back in a practical ponytail. She wore the gray uniform of maintenance staff, covered in grease stains and tool marks. To the aliens who ran this place, she was just another pair of hands. Humans were considered useful for simple tasks, but not much else. The galaxy had made that very clear when humanity first made contact 5 years ago. Tonight felt different, though. Ji-Won noticed more security patrols than usual. Armed guards stood at intersections she normally walked through without a second glance. Something was happening, and the higher-ups did not want the maintenance crew to know about it. She was working near the officers' briefing room when she heard voices. The door was slightly open, just a crack. Ji-Won knew she should walk away. Eavesdropping on council officers could get her fired, maybe even arrested. But something made her stop. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was instinct. She pressed herself against the wall and listened. The voices belonged to 3 council officers. Ji-Won recognized one of them, Commander Vexthar, a tall reptilian creature with scales that gleamed under the lights. He commanded the 5th Fleet and had a reputation for efficiency and ruthlessness. "The demonstration will happen in 3 days," Vexthar said. His voice was cold and precise. "The target is the human colony on New Sol. Population approximately 3 million. We will use the Crimson Judgment for the strike." Ji-Won's blood went cold. New Sol was her home world. Her parents lived there. Her younger brother was studying at the university there. Another voice responded, this one belonging to a council diplomat. "Are we certain this is necessary? The humans rejected our trade agreement, yes, but attacking a civilian population seems extreme." "The humans need to understand their place," Vexthar replied. "They have been too bold in negotiations, too confident. This demonstration will remind them that they are newcomers in a galaxy run by their betters. We will destroy 1 city. That should be sufficient." "And the Crimson Judgment?" the 3rd voice asked. "Perfect for this purpose," Vexthar said. "It is our newest warship, equipped with weapons that can level a continent. The humans will see what we are capable of, and they will learn to be grateful for whatever scraps we offer them." The 3 officers laughed. The sound made Ji-Won feel sick. She moved away from the door carefully, her mind racing. 3 days. They were going to attack her home in 3 days. She had to warn someone. She had to tell the human representatives on the council. They could lodge a protest, demand protection, maybe even evacuate the city. But even as she thought this, Ji-Won knew it was hopeless. Human representatives had no real power in the council. They could file complaints and make speeches, but nobody listened. The council made decisions and humans followed orders. That was how things worked. By the time she reached her quarters, Ji-Won had made a decision that terrified her. There was only one way to stop this attack. She had to steal the Crimson Judgment. The idea was insane. The warship was the most advanced vessel in the galaxy, designed by the Council's best engineers over 30 years. It required a crew of 200 trained specialists. It was kept in the most secure dock in the shipyard, surrounded by guards and defense systems. And Ji-Won was just a maintenance technician who had never piloted anything larger than a shuttle. But she had one advantage that nobody knew about. For 2 years, Ji-Won had been learning. Every system she maintained, she studied. Every security protocol she saw, she memorized. Every access code she came across, she quietly saved. The aliens thought humans were too stupid to understand complex technology. They talked freely in front of her, assuming she could not comprehend what they said. They left terminals unlocked, assuming she could not read their language. They were wrong. G1 spent the next hour planning. She pulled up the schematics of the Crimson Judgment from her terminal, studying the ship's layout. She reviewed her access codes and mapped the security blind spots she had discovered over months of careful observation. She packed a small bag with supplies, not much, just some food and water and a change of clothes. Then she went to work. The shipyard at night was like a sleeping giant. Most of the staff had gone home. Only skeleton crews remained. And they were used to seeing G1 wander the corridors during her shifts. Nobody questioned when she made her way toward the high-security docks. The first checkpoint was easy. Her maintenance credentials got her through without trouble. The guard barely looked at her. The second checkpoint required more creativity. G1 triggered a false alarm in a nearby section, and when the guards rushed to investigate, she slipped past. The Crimson Judgment sat in Dock 7, massive and beautiful. The ship was over a kilometer long, shaped like a blade, with weapon systems that bristled along its hull. Red lights pulsed along its surface, giving it an ominous glow. G1 felt very small looking at it. She approached the boarding ramp and used her maintenance override code. The door opened with a soft hiss. So far, so good. Inside, the ship was dark and silent. Emergency lighting cast everything in a dim red glow. G1 made her way to the bridge, her footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst from her chest. The bridge was enormous, designed for dozens of crew members working in coordination. Control stations surrounded a central command chair. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing ship status and tactical information. Everything looked impossibly complex. G1 sat in the pilot's seat and placed her hands on the controls. Immediately, a voice filled the bridge. "Unauthorized access detected," the ship's AI announced. Its voice was smooth and emotionless. "Identify yourself." "Maintenance Technician G1, authorization code 77 Alpha 9, she said, her voice shaking. "Insufficient clearance for command functions," the AI responded. "This vessel requires flag officer authorization. Please exit the bridge immediately or security will be summoned." G1 had expected this. She pulled out a small device from her toolkit, something she had built from spare parts over the past few months. It was a protocol bypass module, designed to trick the ship's systems into thinking she had higher clearance. "Running override," she said, connecting the device to the nearest terminal. The AI went silent for a moment, then it spoke again, and this time there was something almost like confusion in its voice. "Override accepted. Welcome aboard, Admiral. Please state your orders." G1 allowed herself a small smile. "Prepare for immediate launch. Unlock all security protocols. Route control to this station only. Acknowledged. Warning, this vessel requires minimum crew complement for safe operation." "Emergency protocols," G1 said. "One pilot operation authorized." "Acknowledged," the AI said, though it sounded doubtful. The ship came alive around her. Systems powered up with a deep thrumming sound. Displays lit up across the bridge. The massive engines began their startup sequence. And in the shipyard control center, alarms started screaming. G1 ignored them. She had maybe 2 minutes before security forces arrived. Her fingers flew across the controls, releasing the docking clamps and firing the maneuvering thrusters. The Crimson Judgment lurched forward, pulling free from its dock with a screech of metal. "Crimson Judgment, you are not cleared for departure," a voice shouted over the communication channel. "Return to dock immediately." G1 closed the channel and pushed the throttle forward. The warship accelerated toward the shipyard exit. Defensive turrets swiveled to track her movement, but they were designed to shoot at incoming threats, not departing ships. The targeting systems hesitated, uncertain. That moment of confusion was all G1 needed. She fired the main engines. The Crimson Judgment roared forward, blasting through the energy barrier that marked the shipyard perimeter. Alarms howled behind her. Ships began launching in pursuit. G1 set course for human space and opened the throttle all the way. The stars stretched into lines as the ship jumped to faster-than-light speed. She had done it. She had stolen the most powerful warship in the galaxy, and now the entire Galactic Council would be hunting her. G1 gripped the controls tightly and whispered to herself, 3 days. I have 3 days to get home. Behind her, Commander Vexthar stared at his displays in complete disbelief. A human maintenance worker had just stolen the Crimson Judgment. The chase had begun. Commander Vexthar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the display screens with growing frustration. 6 hours had passed since the human girl stole the Crimson Judgment, and his fleet was finally catching up to her. The Fifth Fleet consisted of 60 warships, each one commanded by experienced officers who had fought in countless battles. They were chasing one 19-year-old maintenance worker in a ship she should not even know how to fly. It should have been over in an hour. That is what Vexthar had told the Council when he mobilized his fleet. He had assured them that this was a minor embarrassment, nothing more. Some foolish human girl had gotten lucky, but she would be recaptured quickly and punished as an example to her species. Now, 6 hours later, Vexthar was beginning to doubt his own words. The human had evaded 3 intercept attempts. She had outmaneuvered patrol ships that should have caught her easily. She had jumped through hyperspace routes that were considered too dangerous for normal travel, and somehow, impossibly, she had kept the massive warship running with no crew except herself. "We are approaching her position," his tactical officer reported. "She is near the Theta Nebula. Our sensors show the Crimson Judgment is slowing down. Engine readings suggest power fluctuations." "Good," Vexthar said. "She is finally running into problems. The ship is too complex for one person to manage. Send her a communication offer. Tell her we will show mercy if she surrenders now." The communication officer opened a channel. Vexthar waited, expecting pleas for forgiveness, or perhaps frightened silence. Instead, the human girl's face appeared on his screen. She looked tired. Her face was pale, and there were dark circles under her eyes, but her expression was calm, almost eerily so. "This is G1, she said. Her voice was steady. "I assume you want me to surrender?" "That would be wise," Vexthar replied. He tried to sound reassuring. "You have committed serious crimes, but the Council understands you are young and confused. Return the ship, and we can discuss reasonable consequences." G1 smiled. It was not a happy smile. "Reasonable consequences? Is that what you call destroying a city full of civilians? A reasonable consequence for rejecting a trade deal?" Vexthar felt his scales prickle with irritation. So she knew about the planned attack. That complicated things. "You have no idea what you are talking about, human. You heard something you did not understand and made a foolish decision. Now surrender before this gets worse." "No," G1 said simply. Then she closed the communication channel and her ship opened fire. The Crimson Judgment's weapons lit up the darkness of space. Targeting lasers locked onto 3 of Vexthar's destroyers. Before the Council ships could react, the human girl had fired plasma cannons and missile batteries simultaneously. The destroyers' shields flared bright blue as they absorbed the impact. "All ships, return fire!" Vexthar shouted. "Disable her engines, but do not destroy the vessel." 60 warships moved into attack formation. They were trained for this. They had practiced fleet coordination for years. They moved like a single organism, beautiful and deadly, and G1 flew right into the middle of them. What happened next would be studied in military academies for years to come, though never as an example of proper tactics. G1 did not fight like a trained pilot. She had no formal education in space combat. She had never attended a single strategy class. She fought like a human playing a video game on the hardest difficulty setting. G1 threw the massive warship into a role that should have been impossible for something that size. She dove into the Theta Nebula's radiation clouds, where sensors could not track her clearly. The Council ships followed, confident in their numbers and training. She was waiting for them in the radiation soup. 3 destroyers pursuing her suddenly found themselves flying through a debris field. G1 had launched mines into their path while they could not see clearly. 2 ships veered away in time. The third hit a mine at full speed. Its shields collapsed, and secondary explosions ripped through its fuel lines. The ship went dark, drifting, and disabled. How did she... Vexthar's tactical officer stared at his screens in confusion. She laid a trap. In 30 seconds, while flying through a radiation nebula. G1 was not done. She emerged from the nebula on a completely unexpected vector, her guns already firing. She targeted sensor arrays and communication dishes, hitting them with precision that seemed impossible. 4 more ships suddenly found themselves blind and deaf, unable to coordinate with the rest of the fleet. She is picking us apart, Vexthar realized with growing horror. 1 ship at a time. The battle continued for 27 minutes. By the end of it, 7 Council ships were disabled. Another 4 had suffered major damage, and the Crimson Judgment, still piloted by 1 exhausted human girl, accelerated away from the fleet at maximum speed. Not a single Council crew member had died. G1 had aimed every shot to disable, not destroy. But the message was clear. She could have killed them all if she wanted to. Vexithar sat in his command chair, staring at the tactical display. His fleet, his experienced and well-trained fleet, had just been humiliated by a maintenance technician. "Commander," his communication officer said hesitantly, "we are receiving a transmission. It is broadcasting on all frequencies across the galaxy. The source is the Crimson Judgment." "Put it on screen," Vexthar said. G1 appeared again. She looked even more tired now, and there was blood on her forehead from where she had hit something during the battle, but her eyes were fierce. "My name is G1, she said to the galaxy. 3 days ago, I overheard Council officers planning to attack my home world. They want to destroy a city, kill 3 million people, all because human diplomats refused to accept a trade deal that would have made us slaves in everything but name." She paused, letting that sink in. "I stole this ship to warn my people. I did not want to fight anyone. I do not want to hurt anyone, but the Council sent a fleet to stop me, so I stopped them instead." G1 leaned closer to the camera. "I am broadcasting this message to every species in the galaxy. The Council plans to commit mass murder to teach humanity a lesson. They think we are weak. They think we will accept whatever they do to us because we are new and small and helpless." Her voice grew harder. "They are wrong." "I am going home," G1 continued. "If the Council tries to stop me again, I will disable their ships again. If they try to attack my homeworld, I will bring this warship and everything it can do right to their doorstep. I do not want war, but I will not let my people die." She looked directly at the camera, and Vexithar felt like she was staring right at him. "To the Council, call off your attack. Leave humanity alone, or learn what 1 human with nothing to lose can do to your precious fleet." The transmission ended. For a long moment, nobody on Vexthar's bridge spoke. Then the communication officer cleared his throat nervously. "Commander, we are receiving thousands of responses. Other species are demanding to know if the humans' claims are true. There are protests starting on Council worlds. The human colonies are mobilizing their defense forces." Vexthar closed his eyes. This was a disaster. The human girl had just turned a secret military operation into the biggest political crisis in decades, and she had made the Council look like brutal tyrants in front of the entire galaxy. Worse, she had made them look weak. 1 human, alone in a stolen ship, had fought the 5th Fleet and won. "What are your orders, Commander?" his tactical officer asked. Vexthar opened his eyes and looked at the empty space where the Crimson Judgment had been. The human was already light years away, racing toward her home. "Send a message to Council headquarters," he said quietly. "Tell them we need reinforcements. Tell them the human is more dangerous than we thought." "How dangerous, sir?" Vexithar thought about the battle he had just witnessed. The impossible maneuvers, the split-second decisions, the absolute refusal to give up or back down. He thought about human history, what little the Council had bothered to study. Humans had spent thousands of years fighting each other in increasingly creative and terrible ways. They had survived ice ages and plagues and wars that killed millions. They were persistence hunters who chased prey until it collapsed from exhaustion, and now the galaxy had given them a reason to be angry. "Tell them," Vexthar said, "that we may have made a very serious mistake about humans." Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched Jiwan's message. Some thought she was a terrorist. Others thought she was a hero. But everyone agreed on one thing. Humanity was not what the Council had told them it was. And Jiwan, exhausted and injured and running on borrowed time, set her course for home and pushed the Crimson Judgment to its maximum speed. She had 2 days left to warn her people. Behind her, the Council was mobilizing its greatest fleet to stop her. The chase was far from over. But now the galaxy was watching. And in her small ship, stolen but not surrendered, Jiwan allowed herself a moment of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she could actually pull this off. Then she checked her fuel readings and her hope faded a little. The ship was damaged. Systems were failing. She was alone, exhausted, and hunted by the most powerful military force in the galaxy. But she was still flying, still fighting, still human. And that would have to be enough. Admiral Krethnos received the emergency summons while reviewing battle strategies in his private quarters. The message was brief and direct. The Council needed him. The Fifth Fleet had failed to stop a human thief, and now the situation was spiraling out of control. They wanted him to take the Second Armada and finish what Vexithar had started. Krethnos was old by any species standards. He had commanded fleets for over 40 years. He had conquered 12 star systems and put down 7 rebellions. His service record filled 3 data files. Other admirals respected him. Most feared him. The Second Armada was the Council's elite force, 300 warships crewed by the best personnel in the galaxy, and they wanted him to use this legendary force to stop one human girl. Krethnos found it almost insulting. But orders were orders. He mobilized the Second Armada and set course to intercept the stolen warship. According to intelligence reports, the human was heading for the Karsus Junction, a vital hyperspace jump point. She would have to pass through there to reach human space. It was the perfect place for an ambush. 2 days into Jiwan's flight, she was barely holding together. She had not slept more than a few hours since stealing the ship. The Crimson Judgment's medical bay had stims, stimulant drugs that kept her awake and alert, but they came with a price. Her hands shook constantly now. Her head pounded with a headache that never went away. Every movement felt like pushing through thick water. The ship was in worse condition than she was. The battle with the Fifth Fleet had damaged primary systems. Life support was running at 60%. The main weapons were offline, though she had managed to get the secondary batteries working again. The hull had taken damage that she could not repair without a proper shipyard, but the engines still worked. That was all that mattered. Jiwan sat in the pilot's seat, staring at the navigation display. The Karsus Junction was 12 hours away. Once she jumped through there, she would be only 1 day from human space. 1 day from home. 1 day from being able to warn her people. Approaching the Karsus Junction, the ship's AI announced. Its voice had changed over the past 2 days. When Jiwan first activated the ship, the AI had been cold and mechanical. Now it almost sounded concerned. Warning, sensors detect a large mass of ships ahead, configuring tactical display. The screen lit up with red icons, hundreds of them. Jiwan felt her stomach drop. How many? She asked, though she was afraid of the answer. 300 ships, the AI replied. Configuration matches Council Second Armada, flagship identified as the Eternal Dominion, commanded by Admiral Krethnos. G1 had heard of Krethnos. Everyone had. He was a legend, the Council's greatest military commander, and he had brought the most powerful fleet in the galaxy to stop her. They are positioned in an encirclement formation around the jump point, the AI continued. Escape routes are blocked in all directions. Recommendation: turn back and find an alternate route. There is no alternate route, G1 said quietly. This is the only jump point within range. If I turn back, I run out of fuel before reaching the next one. Then surrender is advised. G1 laughed, but there was no humor in it. If I surrender, 3 million people die. My parents die, my brother dies. Everyone I ever knew dies. So no, I am not surrendering. Your chances of survival are calculated at 0.03%. Then I guess I better be lucky. G1 studied the tactical display. 300 ships in a perfect sphere around the jump point. No gaps, no weaknesses. It was a flawless trap set by a master strategist. Which meant Krethnos expected her to try to run. He expected her to look for a gap in his formation. He expected her to be smart and cautious. So G1 decided to be neither. Plot a jump directly to the center of their formation, she ordered. Right into the middle of the sphere. That is suicide, the AI said. Probably, G1 agreed. Do it anyway. The Crimson Judgment accelerated to jump speed. Reality twisted and bent. Space folded. And G1 jumped directly into the heart of Admiral Krethnos' carefully prepared trap. The Crimson Judgment appeared right in the center of the Second Armada's formation. 300 warships surrounded it on all sides, their weapons already charging. For a perfect moment, everything was still. Then G1 opened fire in every direction at once. She had spent the last hour programming every weapon system she could still operate. Plasma cannons, missile batteries, point defense lasers, everything. She had set them all to fire simultaneously in a spherical pattern. The Crimson Judgment became a ball of weapons fire, shooting outward in all directions. It was not a military tactic. It was not in any tactical manual. It was pure chaos. And chaos was the one thing Krethnos' perfect formation could not handle. Ships scattered to avoid the incoming fire. Shields flared as plasma bolts struck home. In the confusion, targeting solutions failed. Ships that had been perfectly positioned suddenly found themselves in each other's line of fire. Several vessels fired at where they thought the Crimson Judgment would be, only to hit other Council ships instead. G1 did not try to fight all 300 ships. She could not. Instead, she targeted their sensor arrays and communication systems just like she had done with the Fifth Fleet. Blind them, deafen them, make them unable to coordinate. Then she moved. The Crimson Judgment dove toward the largest ship in the formation, the Eternal Dominion itself. G1 flew so close to its hull that collision alarms screamed. She used the massive flagship as a shield, keeping it between her and the rest of the fleet. Other ships held their fire, unwilling to risk hitting their admiral's vessel. "This is insane," the AI commented. "I know," G1 gasped. The G-forces were crushing. She could feel blood vessels bursting in her eyes. Her ribs screamed with pain. Human bodies were not designed for these kinds of maneuvers. But human bodies could survive them. Barely. G1 spun the ship around the Eternal Dominion's engine section, still firing at every sensor dish and communication relay she could target. Then she kicked the main engines to full power and shot through a gap in the formation. Behind her, the Second Armada descended into chaos. Ships were firing at shadows. Others were trying to re-establish communication networks. A few collided with each other in the confusion, their shields sparking as they scraped together. Admiral Krethnos stood on his bridge, watching his perfect trap fall apart. He had fought for 40 years. He had studied every major battle in recorded history. He had trained his fleet to operate like a single, precise instrument. And this human child had turned it all into a disaster in less than 10 minutes. "Status report," he demanded. 17 ships disabled, his tactical officer reported. 23 more with major damage. No casualties reported yet, but several crew members are injured. The humans' weapons were set to disable, not destroy. "Where is she now?" "Gone, sir. She jumped to hyperspace, heading for human space." Krethnos sat down heavily in his command chair. Around him, his bridge crew worked frantically to restore order to the fleet. But the damage was done. The Second Armada, the elite force that had never been defeated, had been humiliated by a teenager in a damaged ship. "Sir," the communication officer said hesitantly, "we are receiving messages from across the galaxy. The human broadcast the battle. Everyone saw what happened." Of course she did, Krethnos thought. The human was not just fighting them. She was fighting for the entire galaxy's attention. Every battle made the Council look weaker. Every victory made humanity look stronger. "What are the Council's orders?" Krethnos asked. "They want her stopped, whatever it takes." Krethnos looked at the empty space where the Crimson Judgment had been. He thought about the maneuvers he had witnessed, the split-second decisions, the absolute refusal to give up even when faced with impossible odds. He had studied human history after the first reports came in. He had read about their wars, their survival, their stubborn determination. There was a human phrase he had found particularly interesting. They did not know when to quit. At the time, Krethnos had thought it meant humans were foolish. Now he understood it meant something else entirely. "Send a message to the Council," he said quietly. "Tell them the human will reach her homeworld. Tell them we cannot stop her in time." "Cannot, sir?" "You saw what she just did to 300 ships," Krethnos said. "She is running on damaged systems, sleep deprivation, and pure willpower, and she still outsmarted me. If we try again, she will do it again, and the galaxy will watch us fail again." He stood up, his decision made. Tell the Council the truth. They started this by planning an attack on civilians. They escalated it by sending fleets after one person, and now they need to deal with the consequences. "The Council will not be pleased, sir." "No," Krethnos agreed. "But I am a soldier, not a fool, and only a fool would keep making the same mistake." In the Crimson Judgment, G1 finally let herself collapse. The adrenaline was wearing off. The pain was becoming overwhelming. She had burns on her arms from overheated controls. Her vision was blurry from burst blood vessels. Every breath hurt, but she was still alive, still flying, still heading home. "ETA to human space?" she asked the AI. 21 hours at current speed." 21 hours, less than a day. She could make it. She had to make it. G1 closed her eyes for just a moment, just to rest them, just for a second. She woke up 3 hours later to alarms blaring. The ship had automatically adjusted course to avoid an asteroid field. G1 dragged herself back to alertness, forced down some food and more stims, and returned to the controls. The galaxy was watching her journey now. She had seen the messages flooding in on open channels. Some called her a terrorist. Others called her a hero. Many just called her crazy. But they were all watching. And that meant the Council could not hide what they had planned. The attack on New Sol would not happen in secret now. If they went through with it, the entire galaxy would know they had murdered civilians to make a point. G1 did not know if that would be enough to stop them. But it was all she had. 18 hours to home. The countdown continued. And somewhere behind her, fleets were still mobilizing. The Council was not done yet. Neither was G1. Admiral Taemin was drinking his morning coffee when the emergency alert came through. He set down his cup carefully and pulled up the message on his terminal. What he read made his blood run cold. New Sol Defense Command had detected an approaching vessel. It was big, moving fast, and its signature matched the Council's newest warship, the Crimson Judgment. Behind it, Long-range sensors showed the signatures of over 50 Council military vessels in pursuit. The attack was happening, 3 days early, but it was happening. Taemin was 60 years old, a career officer who had commanded New Seoul's defense forces for the past decade. Those forces consisted of 30 patrol ships and 2 outdated cruisers. They were designed to fight off pirates and smugglers, not Council warships. He was about to order a general evacuation when a second message arrived. This one was a direct communication from the approaching warship. Taemin opened it, expecting a Council commander's ultimatum. Instead, he saw a young woman's face. She looked terrible, pale and exhausted, with blood on her face and dark circles under her eyes. But her voice was steady. "This is Ji-won, calling New Seoul Defense Command. I am human. I stole this ship. The Council is planning to attack your world. I came to warn you." Taemin stared at the screen. "This is Admiral Taemin. Repeat that." "You stole a Council warship?" "Yes, sir. 3 days ago. I overheard Council officers planning the attack. They want to destroy a city here as a demonstration, to teach humanity a lesson. I took the ship to stop them." It was insane. It was impossible. But as Taemin looked at the exhausted girl on his screen, he believed her. "The Council fleet behind you? Are they here for the attack?" "No, sir. They are here for me. The attack fleet will arrive in 4 hours. 50 warships led by Commander Vexithar. They still plan to go through with it, even though the whole galaxy is watching now." Taemin processed this quickly. "Can you fight?" Ji-won laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. "Sir, the Crimson Judgment is barely functional. Main weapons are offline. Life support is failing. I am running on fumes and stimulants. I can barely keep the ship flying, let alone fight." "Then we will fight together," Taemin said firmly. "Get to New Seoul orbit. We have 3 hours to prepare. Tell me everything you know about their attack plan." The next 3 hours were chaos. Taemin mobilized every ship in the defense fleet. He contacted the civilian government and ordered them to evacuate the capital city. 3 million people could not evacuate completely in 3 hours, but they could get to shelters. They could spread out. They could reduce casualties if the worst happened. Ji-won limped the Crimson Judgment into orbit, and human engineers swarmed over it. They had never seen technology this advanced, but they were human, and humans were very good at figuring things out under pressure. "We can get partial power to the main weapons," one engineer reported, "maybe 30% capacity, and we can patch the life support long enough for one more fight." "Do it," Taemin ordered. "Fast!" Ji-won was taken to the medical bay of one of the cruisers. Doctors examined her and looked horrified. "Radiation poisoning," the head doctor said. "Multiple fractures, severe sleep deprivation, internal bleeding. How are you even conscious?" "Stimulants," Ji-won replied. "A lot of them. Can you fix me enough to fly?" "You should not be flying at all. You should be in intensive care." "That is not an option." "Can you fix me enough to fly?" The doctor looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "I can give you something for the pain, and more stimulants, though that is a terrible idea. But after this battle, if you survive, you are going straight to a hospital. Understood?" "Understood," Ji-won lied. She knew she probably would not survive this battle. But that was okay. She had gotten home. She had warned her people. That was enough. 2 hours later, the Council attack fleet arrived. 50 warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Commander Vexthar's flagship took position at the center. The Council fleet expected to find an undefended planet ready for their demonstration of power. Instead, they found 32 human ships in battle formation, with the stolen Crimson Judgment positioned at the center. "This is Commander Vexthar to all human vessels," the Council commander broadcast. "You are interfering with Council operations. Stand down immediately or be destroyed." Admiral Taemin opened a channel. This is Admiral Taemin of New Seoul Defense Command. You are threatening a civilian population center. We will not stand down. If you want this planet, you will have to go through us. You have 30 outdated ships against 50 modern warships, Vexthar replied. This is not a fight you can win. Probably not, Taemin agreed. But we will make you pay for every meter. And Ji-won, back in the pilot seat of the Crimson Judgment, despite the doctor's protests, added her own message. Commander Vexthar, the whole galaxy is watching. If you attack civilians now, everyone will know what you are. Is that really what the Council wants? There was a long silence. Then Vexthar spoke again, and his voice was hard. Our orders are clear. This demonstration will proceed. Last chance to surrender. Then let us begin, Taemin said. The Battle of New Seoul started with the Council fleet advancing in formation. The human ships met them head-on. It was immediately clear that this would not be a fair fight. The Council ships had better weapons, better shields, better everything. But the humans had something else. They had courage born of desperation. They were defending their home. A human patrol ship rammed a Council destroyer, its shields overloading in a bright flash. The destroyer reeled, damaged. Another patrol ship followed up with weapons fire, targeting the breach in the destroyer's shields. Ji-won coordinated the human fleet from the Crimson Judgment, using the advanced sensors to track enemy positions. Delta Squadron, focus fire on that cruiser's engines. Charlie Squadron, defensive pattern around the orbital platforms. The human ships moved like wolves attacking a larger predator, darting in to strike and then retreating before the Council ships could respond effectively. They used every dirty trick they knew. They used debris as cover. They fired from unexpected angles. They fought with creativity and desperation. But it was not enough. The Council fleet was simply too strong. One by one, human ships went dark. Escape pods launched as crews abandoned dying vessels. The defense fleet was being torn apart. Taemin watched his ships fall and felt despair rising. They had fought bravely, but brave was not enough against those odds. Then something unexpected happened. New ships began emerging from hyperspace, ships that were not human or Council, ships from a dozen different species, all broadcasting the same message. They were here to help humanity. A Vrelian cruiser took position beside a damaged human ship, its shields extending to protect both vessels. A pack of Zelvian fighters harassed Council destroyers, their hit-and-run tactics buying time for human ships to regroup. This is Captain Nira of the Vrelian Stellar Guard, a voice announced on an open channel. We watched the human girl's journey. We saw her courage. And we will not stand by while the Council commits murder. This is Commander Bax of the Zelvian Confederation, another voice added. The Council does not speak for all of us. Not anymore. Across the battlefield, ships from neutral species joined the fight. Not all of them. Maybe a dozen in total. But it was enough to change the momentum. Commander Vexthar watched his tactical display with growing alarm. This was spiraling out of control. What should have been a simple demonstration had become a full battle involving multiple species, and all of it was being broadcast across the galaxy. Sir, his communication officer said, we are receiving an emergency order from the Council. They want us to withdraw. Withdraw? Vexthar repeated. Yes, sir. Immediately. The political situation has changed. They say to break off the attack and return to Council space. Vexthar looked at the battle unfolding on his screens. Human ships fighting desperately. Allied species risking themselves for people they barely knew. And at the center of it all, one damaged warship piloted by a girl who refused to quit. He had spent 40 years in the Council military. He had followed orders without question. But looking at this battle, watching people die for a political demonstration, Vexthar felt something he had not felt in a long time. Shame. All ships, he ordered, cease fire. Withdraw to minimum safe distance. Sir, His tactical officer looked confused. "You heard me! Cease fire! Now!" The Council fleet stopped shooting. Slowly, the human ships stopped as well. The Allied vessels held their positions, weapons still armed, protecting the humans. Vexthar opened a direct channel to G1. "Human, you have made your point. The Council is calling off the attack. You win." G1's face appeared on screen. She looked like she might collapse at any moment. But she managed a tired smile. "Thank you, Commander." "Do not thank me," Vexthar said. "I was prepared to follow through with this attack. You stopped it. You and your people's refusal to give up." He paused. "I underestimated humans. The Council underestimated humans. That was a mistake we will not make again." "Good," G1 said, "because we are done being underestimated." The Council fleet jumped to hyperspace, retreating. The Allied ships remained long enough to help with rescue operations, pulling survivors from damaged vessels. The Battle of New Sol was over. Taemin sat in his command chair, looking at the casualty reports. 16 ships lost. Over 200 dead. Hundreds more injured. But 3 million civilians were safe. New Sol stood intact, and the galaxy had watched humanity refuse to surrender. Even against impossible odds, G1 finally allowed herself to leave the Crimson Judgment's pilot seat. She made it 3 steps before her legs gave out. Medical personnel caught her before she hit the floor. "Hospital," the doctor said firmly. "Now, no arguments." G1 did not argue. She had done enough. The rest was up to others now. As they carried her away, she looked back at the Crimson Judgment one last time. The great warship sat in orbit, damaged beyond repair but still intact, a symbol of what one person could do when they refused to accept the impossible. "Thank you," she whispered to the ship. Then exhaustion finally claimed her, and everything went dark. G1 woke up in a hospital room filled with white light. For a moment she panicked, thinking she was still on the Crimson Judgment. Then she felt the softness of a real bed beneath her, heard the steady beep of medical monitors, and remembered where she was. Home. She was home. A doctor entered the room, an older woman with kind eyes. "Welcome back. You have been unconscious for 3 days. How do you feel?" "Like I got hit by a ship," G1 said honestly. Her voice was hoarse. Everything hurt. "That is not far from the truth," the doctor replied. "You had severe radiation poisoning, multiple fractures, internal bleeding, and enough stimulants in your system to kill most people. You are lucky to be alive." "How many died?" G1 asked. "In the battle." The doctor's expression grew sad. 243 personnel from the defense fleet. Another 100 injured. It could have been much worse. If you had not warned us, if we had not prepared, the casualty count would have been in the millions. G1 closed her eyes. 243 people dead because of her. Because she stole a ship. Because she started a fight. "They died protecting their home," the doctor said gently, as if reading her thoughts. "They died heroes. And they died knowing what they were fighting for, thanks to you. Do not dishonor their sacrifice by blaming yourself." A week passed before G1 was strong enough to receive visitors. The first was Admiral Taemin, who brought flowers and a tablet filled with messages. "The whole galaxy wants to talk to you," he said with a slight smile. "News organizations, governments, the Council itself has requested a meeting. You are probably the most famous person in known space right now." "I just wanted to save my home," G1 said quietly. "I know. But you did more than that. You changed everything." Taemin sat down in the visitor's chair. "The Council is in chaos. 3 senior members have resigned. Dozens of species are demanding investigations into Council military operations. There are protests on over 100 worlds." "Good," G1 said. They were planning to murder civilians. People should be angry. They are. And they are also asking questions about humans, about what else the Council has lied about what other species have been mistreated. Tae-min leaned forward. The Council has offered humanity a seat at the table, not as junior members, as full partners with voting rights. Ji-won's eyes widened. They agreed to that? They do not have much choice. After what happened, after what the galaxy saw, they cannot afford to look weak. And treating humanity as equals is the fastest way to restore their credibility. Tae-min smiled. You stole a warship and accidentally started a political revolution. Accidentally, Ji-won repeated. Right. Over the next few weeks, as Ji-won recovered, the offers poured in. The human government wanted her to become a military advisor. They offered her medals and honors and a position in the new Galactic Council delegation. The Council itself, through carefully worded back channels, suggested that perhaps she would consider working for them as a security consultant. They were terrified of what else she might hack if she got bored. Private corporations offered her jobs with salaries that made her head spin. News organizations wanted exclusive interviews. Universities wanted to study how she had managed to pilot a ship designed for 200 people. Ji-won turned down everything. Instead, she enrolled in the new Seoul Technical Institute's engineering program. She wanted to design ships, not steal them. She wanted to build things, create things, make the galaxy better instead of just fighting against the parts that were wrong. But she kept her pilot's license, and she kept in touch with Admiral Tae-min, just in case. 3 months after the battle, the Galactic Council formally acknowledged humanity as a full member species. 3 human ambassadors took their seats in the council chamber, representing Earth, New Seoul, and the outer colonies. The ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Ji-won watched from her dorm room, eating instant noodles and working on a homework assignment about propulsion systems. Her roommate, a girl named Hana, sat beside her. That could have been you up there, Hana said, pointing at the screen. You could have been an ambassador or an admiral or anything you wanted. I did not do it for glory, Ji-won replied. I did it because it needed to be done. Still, most people would take the rewards. Ji-won shrugged. I am not most people. That much was certainly true. The girl who had stolen the galaxy's most advanced warship was now studying for midterm exams and complaining about cafeteria food like any other student. She went to classes, did her homework, and tried to live a normal life. But normal was relative. Sometimes late at night, Ji-won would dream of flying through space with alarms screaming and weapons firing. She would wake up shaking, covered in sweat. The doctor said it was expected. That trauma took time to heal. On those nights, Ji-won would look out her window at the stars and think about the Crimson Judgment. The ship sat in orbit above New Seoul now, too damaged to ever fly again but preserved as a monument. Engineers studied it. Historians recorded every detail, but mostly it just floated there, a reminder of what had happened. One night, 6 months after the battle, Ji-won received an unexpected visitor. Commander Vexthar requested permission to meet with her. After some debate, she agreed. They met in a small conference room at the Technical Institute. Vexthar looked different than he had on the view screen. Older somehow. Tired. Thank you for seeing me, he said, sitting down across from her. I was not certain you would agree. I almost did not, Ji-won admitted. You were going to kill millions of people. Yes, Vexthar said simply. I was following orders, but that is not an excuse. I have spent the past months thinking about that, about what I almost did. Why are you here? Ji-won asked. To apologize, and to tell you that you were right. Vexthar looked at her directly. The Council was wrong about humanity. I was wrong about humanity. We saw a young species and assumed weakness. We assumed you would accept whatever we chose to give you. And now we know better. Now the galaxy knows better. Vexithar paused. You could have killed everyone in my fleet. You had the weapons. You had the opportunity, but you chose to disable our ships instead. You showed more restraint than I would have in your position. I did not want to be a killer, Jiwan said quietly. I just wanted to save my home. That is what makes you dangerous, Vexthar replied. Not weapons, not tactics, but your unwillingness to give up. Your refusal to accept what seems inevitable. Every species in the galaxy has that to some degree, but humans have it in abundance. They talked for another hour. It was not forgiveness, exactly. Too much had happened for that, but it was understanding, and maybe eventually it could become something like respect. After Vexthar left, Jiwan returned to her studies, but his words stayed with her. A year passed, then 2. Jiwan graduated with honors and got a job at the New Sol shipyards, designing vessels for the expanding human fleet. She was good at her work, really good. Her designs were innovative and efficient, and incorporated lessons learned from her time on the Crimson Judgment. Sometimes people recognized her, asked for autographs, wanted to hear her story. Jiwan was polite, but brief. She did not like talking about it. The battle felt like something that had happened to someone else, in a different life. But the galaxy had not forgotten. On the 5th anniversary of the Battle of New Sol, a new ship was launched. It was a human-designed cruiser, incorporating both human engineering and technology shared by allied species. It was fast and powerful, and represented everything humanity had learned since joining the galactic community. The ship was named the Jiwan. She attended the launch ceremony at the request of the Admiral, now an old friend. She gave a short speech about courage and determination, and the importance of standing up for what was right. I was not special, Jiwan told the crowd. I was just someone who saw something wrong and decided to do something about it. Anyone could have done what I did. They just needed a reason to try. Later, watching the new ship launch into space, Hana stood beside her. Do you ever regret it? Turning down all those opportunities? You could have been an admiral yourself by now, or a council representative, or rich beyond measure. Jiwan thought about it. No, she said finally. I am happy here, designing ships, building things. This is what I wanted. But you changed the galaxy. Maybe. But the galaxy changed me too. Jiwan smiled. Besides, if something like that happens again, if someone needs to do something impossible, the galaxy has learned an important lesson. What lesson? Never underestimate a human with nothing to lose. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the ship named in Jiwan's honor disappear into the stars. Somewhere up there, the Crimson Judgment still orbited New Sol, a permanent reminder of one girl's desperate flight. But there were other reminders, too. Humanity now sat on the council as equals. Species that had been oppressed were finding their voices. The galaxy was becoming a better place, slowly but surely. And it had all started with one maintenance technician who heard something wrong and decided to steal a warship. Jiwan returned to her office the next day and continued designing ships. Good ships, safe ships, ships that would protect humanity and its allies. She worked hard and lived quietly and tried to make the galaxy a little bit better every day. But in her desk drawer, she kept her pilot's license current. And sometimes, late at night, she would look at the stars and remember the feeling of flying through space with the entire council fleet chasing her. She had been terrified, exhausted, nearly dead. But she had also been free. And she had proven something important, something the galaxy would never forget. Humans might be small, they might be new, they might seem weak compared to ancient species with vast empires and incredible technology. But humans had something special. When pushed against the wall, when facing impossible odds, when everything seemed lost, humans did not surrender. They pushed back, they fought, they won. And the galaxy, for better or worse, would never underestimate humanity again. Jiwon smiled to herself, saved her work, and started designing her next ship. She had a lot of ships to build. The galaxy was a big place, and humanity was just getting started. The story of the human girl who fled in a warship became legend. It was told on 1,000 worlds, in 100 languages. Some details changed with each telling, but the core remained the same. One person could make a difference. One person could change everything. You just needed the courage to try. And humans, as the galaxy had learned, had courage in abundance. They had learned not to regret their actions against humanity. Because humanity, when given a reason, did not know how to quit. And that made all the difference.